And that officially is the end of Ohio State's national championship football season here in Ohio Stadium. Doug Lesmerises with Bill Landis and Ari Wasserman. After the celebration with 45,000 Ohio State fans on Saturday morning, they showed some highlight videos. They had lots of politicians give speeches. And then they got to Urban Meyer talking. They had some players talk. Bill, you know, this is your first year covering Ohio State, and it ends here with the celebration of the best team in the country. What did you think of this final send-off for the Buckeyes?
You know, it was nice. It was a nice tribute, I think, to the team for everything they accomplished this year. The crowd, I mean, speaking as someone who's never been a part of something like this before, the crowd to me was pretty astonishing to see 45,000 people out here in the cold for basically people talking for 25 minutes was pretty impressive. But there were some nice moments. You know, you saw the quarterbacks. Taylor Decker asked people to follow him on Twitter, so people get a boost to his social media profile.
I did wish we would have gotten like a little more Cardale Jones, Darren Lee, Tyvis Powell, a little, you know, you could have pumped it up a little bit. Ari, you know, you understand this Ohio State team. You grew up following Ohio State. From that perspective, someone who's sort of followed Ohio State their whole life, what did you think of a moment like this for this team and these fans?
Well, I think if you date back, I mean, I was a kid in 2002 when they won the national championship, but, you know, you made this point before we started talking. When C. Grant sang the Carmen, Ohio, I think a lot of people remember that as one of their fondest memories from the 2002 national championship season, kind of the culmination of the emotion through the grit of those close games for 14 wins. So I don't think that there was an emotional moment from today that people are going to look back at on 5 years and say, God, you remember that one time when Tyvis Powell did this, or that kind of lacked a little bit. But I think it's nice that there was a lot of fans here, but I wasn't here in 02, but I don't think that the emotional connection and the emotional feeling of a national championship was quite as heavy as probably it was 10, 12 years ago.
You know, they did give a little peek into sort of what it was like for this team. They went back and they talked about the toast they made during the 2012 season before that Michigan State win, which was sort of like the defining moment. They thought of the real start of the Urban Meyer era when they sort of pledged to each other and pledged to these fans that they were going to go about their business a certain way. It's weird. I think this was such an emotional year in a lot of ways. It's almost like everybody was spent, sort of. You know, like it wasn't, I mean, they were the number 4 team that barely got in the playoff, that then beat Alabama, you know, got rid of that SEC thing, then won the national title after all the injuries and all the stuff. They've already had their craziness. Like, they sort of didn't need like a final wrap-up crazy day. The whole thing's been nuts. But they did. They got a street. They're going to have undisputed way at the corner of Lane and High. They've already hung up the national championship banner in the Woody Hayes Athletic Center. And one thing that we will emphasize, and now, you know, this is over, and it's on to the next thing. And there was already talk in this ceremony about next year. There were, you know, Urban Meyer introduced Ezekiel Elliott and Joey Bosa as the super sophomores, which I wrote about that, you know, in 1968, a sophomore-led team won a national championship, and then they wanted to try to do more. These guys want to try to do more. So this was the end of one thing, but it was also the start of what's next, which is a team with a lot back, including 3 quarterbacks, trying to repeat in a very competitive world, but certainly no one's going to doubt their chance to do that at the very least. By the way, I felt like I haven't seen you guys since the championship. What do you guys been up to?
Just listening to rap music, really. That's just, you know, nothing much.
So anyway, hopefully everyone's been reading and following Bill and Ari's legendary journey from Dallas through the South back to Columbus. Couple more stories to come next week on that. It's been an incredible trip talking about how people view Ohio State and certainly what is ahead for this program. So a final wrap for us. Thank you for following along all year. Signing day is ahead. Basketball is ahead. You're not going to be rid of us, but this is kind of the bow on this football season. One last time, from Ohio Stadium, for Bill Landis, for Ari Wasserman, I'm Doug Lesmerises. Thanks, as always, for reading and for watching here on cleveland.com.